Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe to this, another edition of Tough Talking Thursday. In our show tonight, we have several issues that we're going to be going over, and I'm happy to welcome joining us from Philadelphia, our chief political analyst, Mr. Wilmot Wetty Cooney. Mr. Cooney, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you for having me.
We also want to welcome our policy analyst, Mrs. Carl Famuleko. Welcome to Focus on Liberia. Also joining us from Philadelphia is our political analyst, Mr. Mohammed Sharif, a proud alumnus of Waplo Institute all the way in River G County. Mr. Sharif, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis. Good to be here.
Joining us for the first time on Tough Talking Thursday, though not on Focus on Liberia, is Mr. Alex 9 Coffee. He is our expert tonight because we have a very important topic that we want to discuss, and we want his expert knowledge. And so we have invited Mr. Coffee to be here. Mr. Coffee is the co-host of FOL Marketplace. Mr. Coffee, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you, Dennis, and hello to everybody, and hello to everybody in the listening land.
Thank you. In tonight's edition, we're going to be looking at three major topics that we're going to be delving into. First, how did Liberia do on the MCC Scorecard? That's topic number one. So we have the MCC Scorecard. That's why Mr. Coffee is here. We have a scorecard here that we're going to be talking about. How did Liberia do on the MCC scorecard? In fact, what is MCC? We're going to talk about that. Also, there's a report that the American government is tired with Liberia's corruption. We're going to also be discussing that. And last but not the least, judges in Monrovia, Liberia, have sued the weird administration for breaking the law, and we're going to see what law they said they broke. Again, the administration of President George Weah has been sued by 16 prominent judges for salary discrimination, which they claim has affected their livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, again, welcome to Tough Talking Thursday. The news of the MCC scorecard is all over the place. Mr. Cooney, you heard it. Mr. Sharif, you heard it. Carl, and also Alex. So let's begin tonight. First of all, how you doing? Mr. Coffee, this is your first time on Tough Talking Thursday.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. Thank you for pulling me off from my schedule for the day.
And how is Alain Belin International?
Yeah, Alain Bernard International is doing well. I was just about swinging my pendulum to Alain Bernard for the day when you pulled me in. So, okay. But anyway, when it comes to all things Liberia, we got to make ourselves available.
Right. Mr. Sharif, before the show, someone said you were too serious because we failed the MCC scorecard. Is that why?
I mean, then I'll be serious for the rest of my life. My God, this government cannot get anything right. So no, I jumped in. I have a couple of things going on. And so I came in and, have been a little busy. And so I came in and there was a conversation on different issues before the show. And I didn't know what it was. And that's all it was. But if it has to do with this government, I will be serious for the rest of my life because they haven't gotten it right and they will never get it right. It doesn't look like.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney. Welcome. I saw you with your purple cup.
Yeah, I made my cup. I received my cup about 3 weeks ago, and I'm happy to be drinking from it. But most importantly, we are here to discuss this scorecard, which is very important to all of us, irrespective of party, irrespective of where we belong. We think what a scorecard contains and the impact of that scorecard on Liberia is something that we should all take very seriously.
Thank you. Carl, again, welcome. We'll be discussing the scorecard, the suing of the we administration and also U.S. government being disappointed with us for corruption. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I'm less concerned about the U.S. government being disappointed than I am about our own citizens and what it impacts, how it impacts us and our disappointment. You know, but we'll get into that a little bit later. I think we overemphasize what the West has to say about our performance, and we're less concerned about our citizens and the impact government incompetence has on the everyday life of Liberians. They're more worried about saving face with Washington than saving the lives of Liberian citizens, and that's the most unfortunate part. But we've got a lot of work to do as citizens, as people who have been empowered to do things. So we'll listen to Mr. Coffee, and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much. So let's get into it, Mr. Coffee. The news we read today said the administration of President George Weah has, for the fourth year in a row, fallen short of the Millennium Challenge Corporation required passing grade to be considered for a new compact to fund its ambitious development agenda. Let's start by saying, what is this Millennium Challenge Corporation scorecard? What is that?
So to answer your question directly, and for me, I like to make it simple. You are on Tough Talking Thursday, but I will prefer to talk softly to provide the education, and I will try to make it simple. So scorecard is like you go to school, right? You go to first grade to 12th grade or the college, and at the end of the day, everything they've taught you and the test you take, that result is put on some piece of paper called your report card, right?
Yeah.
It's to show how much, what you've done in school. And certain grades indicates that you fail or you pass. So in Liberia, for example, 70 in high school is a passing grade. So anything from 70 up, you pass. Anything below 70, you fail. It is based on what you've done, based on what they've taught you, what they require of you. When you go to college, it's the same thing as the GPA, right? And the GPA, once it drops below C, you fail. Okay, so that's simple. So the Millennium Challenge Corporation has a scorecard. So the question is, what is the Millennium Challenge Corporation? And what does it stand for, right? So to make it simple, it's a U.S. government entity, all right? It's a development assistance agency of the United States of America, okay? It's passed by law, by the United States law, but it's an independent body that helps in, and their whole aim is to reduce poverty through growth. What they do is they help different countries in the world, they're almost from A to Z, okay? Mostly developing countries and countries that need help from A to Z, from Algeria to Zambia, with Liberia and other countries in between there. So based on because their objective is to reduce poverty, they provide, unlike the World Bank or the other entities, they provide you grants. And grant is money that you do not pay back. All right? So it's a school process. So in order to get this money, you must be able to do certain things over a number of years. It's like you go to school, like I said, your measurement in school is you go to school for the academic year. So in the case of the Millennium, it's yearly. Okay, every year. I think they started around if I'm correct, it started around 2008, and Liberia really started being measured around 2012. And every year, Liberia has been measured. All right, Liberia has been given a report card. So, based on how you perform, how any country perform, they have three types of grants. They have what we call the compact grant, which Liberia has gotten before, and which Liberia is going for again to get. All right. So then they have the compact grant is it's a 5-year period. They give it to you, 5 years, and so between the MCC give it to you, but you have to be eligible. Okay. Going to school, you have to pass the next year to the next class. You have to pass the next year to the next class before they give you that grant. And that grant is to fund specific targeted programs aimed at reducing corruption and stimulating economic growth in your country, because that's their thing, to reduce poverty and through growth. So the specific projects that they will identify which will reduce poverty and stimulate, right? All the some of the engines that have to do with your economy, and that the people of the country will benefit. All right. They also have what we call the threshold program. Okay. Which the threshold program is something like, it's a smaller one. They help you. Sometimes they come to you if you are falling behind. They provide some funding to help you in some areas so that you can be able to qualify for the compact grant. And they have another one, what they call the concurrent compacts for regional investment. That one is based on region. And they started that one in December 2018, thereabout. And only 5 countries have so far qualified in our region, the West African region. They come Benin, Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, and Niger. So Liberia has been in a compact area. All right. And of course, Liberia got some money. I think in 2015, 2016, Liberia got some money, 257 million, which was used towards electricity and other economic stimulating programs. All right. So,
Mr. Coffee, before you continue, what are they? When you go to school, you got to pass. They're grading you on something. So, what are they grading us on? What's the criteria?
So they have something they call the scorecard, like your report card.
Right.
All right. So in high school, you got science, you got math, you got history, you got English, and you also know that subjects are put in different categories. You got the sciences.
Right.
For example, you read to high school, you do. The category science could be biology, chemistry, and physics, right?
Right.
The language, the language arts.
English,
right?
literature.
Yeah, literature, all those things, English, history, and all that stuff. So they got a scorecards, and they have criteria for you to pass, right? So they have 3 different criteria for you to pass, okay? They have other technical things which I don't want to go to because I want to make it simple.
Right? Yeah, let me make it simple. Sure.
The medium score and all that stuff, they have it. But let me make it simple. So a country is considered to pass. There are 20 indicators, so there are 20 subjects, right?
Yeah, right.
And these subjects are put in 3 different categories. So those subjects, they call them indicators. There are 20 indicators. All you have to do is to pass only half of it, only 10.
50%.
Yeah, you got to make 50%.
Government grade.
Yeah, government grade. You got to make 50%. Okay? Passing mark. So then you also, that's number 1. Then you also have to pass in controlling of corruption.
Hey. Okay? That one is funny.
Then you also have to pass what we call the civil liberties or the political rights. So either the civil liberty or political rights. right? Democracy, all that thing, political party, align, no prisoner going to jail, and those kind of things. So you have to pass civil liberty. You know, civil liberty is people's rights, women's rights, children's rights, all the rights per constitution and all that stuff. You can, marginalize people and all that kind of stuff. So you have to pass 20 of the indicators. Of course, 20 of those indicators include the other two things, include controlling corruption and civil liberty or political rights. But those two are important, so you have to pass those two by themselves. So if you fail corruption, you can pass all the other one, you still fail. If you fail civil liberty or political rights, you can fail.
Okay? Math. When you fail math, you fail. No matter
you fail the major subject in school.
Right.
You fail the major subject, like science and math, you fail.
So Mr. Coffee, let's look at the scorecard now and see how Liberia did. Let me put that on the screen.
Yeah, but if you don't explain the thing properly, you can explain our scorecard, you're not understanding.
Okay, right? Go ahead. I thought you finished.
No, I'm finished it. So each of them has their different indicators. So those three categories, they call them. You can put it on the board. You can put it on the board so people can see what I'm explaining. Okay. So we're in a classroom now. So you have on the board there, you have economic freedom. Then you have ruling justly on your right. So on your left, you have economic freedom. That's category number 1. Not in special order, but at least then we have that now. It's number 1. Then you have ruling justly. Somewhere down on a ruling justly, you have investing in people. Okay, so under economic freedom, there are 8 indicators. As you can see there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Then under ruling justly, you have 6, and under investing in people, you have what? You have 6. Okay. So, for example, under economic, you have access to credit. You know that people have to get loans. People have to be able to get loans in a bank, and people that are making business have to be able to get money to finance their businesses. So opportunities for that. Business startup. So how do you start a business? Is it difficult to register businesses? Is it difficult to go see lawyer for something and all that kind of stuff? All that stuff is there. Okay, so then you have the fiscal policy, which Liberia has failed consistently. So you have all these different indicators, right? On a ruling justly, you have control of corruption, you have freedom of information, and things like that. So let's look at the scope.
Right.
Now, Liberia has failed. That means the fiscal year 2021, when you get done now.
Oh yeah. This one at 22, just to explain that.
Yeah.
Go ahead, we'll find 22.
Okay. So Liberia is supposed to pass, like I said, we're supposed to pass control of corruption. We're supposed to pass democratic rights. And then we're supposed to pass half of the 20. That means we will get 10. But unfortunately, we got 9 out of the 20. So we're short of 1. We're short of 1 indicator. That's how we feel. We passed control of corruption and democratic rights since we started. So if you want to divide it, Ellington and we are time, because for example, all this year, everything will be put together for next year. Okay, so all the document, the collector, you have, and these things are done by the measurement, the checking of the grades and all that stuff is done by independent body of the MCC, the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States. Who provides the information? It's the government. Every government provides the information, the data, the evidence. So if they say, for example, did you have people have access to financing, right? They want to see how many people you gave loan, how many people qualify for loan, all right? Did you say a business startup, how long it takes to register a business? Simple things as you go to the business registry and they're frustrating you and it takes 7 days, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Those things are counted. Those little things are counted. Okay, so you have to provide the evidence. So they will come to all the institutions. All the institutions are supposed to put in those data based on, it's like the form. The people will come and they will check the form. They will say, okay, have you done this? Yes. Okay, what's the documentation? What's the evidence? Okay, so once you do that, so if we want to go into the specifics of Liberia, if you want me to go into that.
No, just we're looking at the score, right? Mm-hmm. So when you say Liberia fail, is it anywhere where there is red as failing?
Yes, anywhere there is red mean you fail in that aspect.
Okay.
Anywhere is green mean you pass. You got the required score.
Good.
Some are measured in percentage terms, some are measured in number terms. Like for example, inflation, you have to be 15% or below.
Okay. So is there, is this unique to Liberia or other people are passing and we failing? Are there good students in this class or is just us?
Yeah, there are good students in the class. A number of countries pass, a number of countries fail. Not only Liberia fail.
Okay.
Some of our neighboring countries pass.
Which one?
Like Sierra Leone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Guinea and Cote d'Ivoire.
Yeah. So for example, if you want to go over it, some of the reasons why we fail. Say, for example, fiscal policy is something that we've been failing. Okay. This indicates a measure the government's committed to prudent fiscal management and private sector growth. Prudent fiscal management and private sector growth. All that budgeting system, all that accountability and transparency in fiscal affairs, in financial management, in our country's financial management. All the possibility to bring private sector, because the people talking about, they give you the money to stimulate economic growth. So if you have more private sectors coming into the country, then you are doing things that encourage these people to come. But unfortunately, Liberia has consistently not passed this particular indicator under the economic freedom category. Okay, so if you come to inflation, we fail inflation because we didn't attain the 15% or less.
So inflation there is the score is 17.
Yeah, so our inflation is about 17. We're short of 2 points. So we should have been around 15 or 14 or something. Or
so in that, so our score there is what? If I'm reading that correctly.
Where it's just a measure in time that you're supposed to have inflation, and there's different ways to calculate the inflation, which is an economic thing. But you're supposed to have 15 or less.
Thank you. Let me go to the rest of my panelists if they have questions or they have anything to add on that. Carl, you want to say something? You have a question for Alex or you want to comment?
I think, first of all, Alex, thank you. That was very thorough. I think it was, in fact, important for you to give that detailed background so that people have the context necessary to understand, why we're the only country in our sub-region that failed. I think one of the things I think that's important to say in the context of U.S. foreign aid, the Millennium Challenge Corporation itself is motivated, of course, as they say, by the need to end poverty. So the U.S. government exercises foreign aid through. They started giving foreign aid during World War II. Tax money being used to help rebuild Germany during World War II, and it was an exercise of what we call soft power. So they say it's really to reduce poverty, but the true motive is to have control and influence. And it is the most powerful tool to not only encourage the U.S., and not encourage, but to propel the U.S. economy as well. So this is not like a selfless motive. And the funds are U.S. tax dollars. So we have to remember that there is a give and take. They're receiving more in return for this investment. Some of it has to do with security because they have more influence and control, and they're very much involved in the process of governing. And in I think in all of the countries that they are participating in this, I think it's like 50 countries, something outrageous like that. And so, if you know that the U.S. government, I mean, they say it's independent, but these are tax dollars that are being used, and it's strategic. During World War II, it was to diminish the threat of communism, and then also creating markets for the U.S. as well, foreign markets for U.S. investors. So they want the stability to grow the U.S. economy. So it's not for nothing. Also to reduce, when in 2004, when George Bush created this, or the U.S. Congress created this under George Bush, the motive was to be so involved. You're almost like the parent government of these nations that participate in the Millennium Challenge Corporation. Being the parent government, what you're doing is you're controlling policy, you're controlling the thought process, you're controlling media, you're controlling propaganda in these countries, you're controlling basically everything. And we, being poor countries, are then jumping through these multiple hoops to get this money. And it's almost like a way of not only economic colonialism, but it's complete control and domination. So we have to really understand not only whether or not we're passing and failing, but what is it that we're participating in the first place? And how is this benefiting us? And how much poverty has really been reduced? And who's actually benefiting from some of these things? These categories that the MCC has provided for these countries, these hoops for us to jump through, are things we should be doing anyway. You know, we're talking as if, though, this is not already the responsibility of government. You know, it's sickening. And yes, it's great that they're giving money, but if we were doing these things on our own, we would be generating an economy on our own where we could stand on our own.
That we don't have scorecard, right?
Yeah, but having to be told this, it creates a system of dependency. It's just, you know, we really have to start critically looking at this. I'm listening to this guy get up and be condescending, you know, oh, I'm so in Liberia, I'm so disappointed, you guys. I mean, when do we behave like human beings, like full-fledged human beings, and start to do things without being told to do this by some other dominant force?
Yeah,
it's pathetic, really.
Thank you, Alex. Before I bring you in, Mohammed, Alex. So, what is the incentive of those doing this scorecard? They are giving us the millions. What do they get back?
So you know, the U.S. interests, right? You know, development assistance. What they get back is to ensure that it's you know, U.S. everything is tied into their foreign policy initiative, their security, and all that stuff. So making sure that the world is sound, making sure that there is democratic governance, making sure that countries are not infiltrated. You know, the idle mind is the devil's workshop kind of situation. So what do they get back? They get back the situation where countries are feeling better, and then so that the trickle down effect to them is that there's, you know, the democratic rule, there's a, you know, constitutional rule, that, you know, and then countries are not used for other reasons, whether it's terrorism reason, for you know perpetrating wars or things like that would destabilize the area and eventually their own interest.
Mr. Sharif, the concept of a scorecard, you know, before the show, you said it's like your father is saying, hey, or your parents are saying, if you pass, I'm going to take you to the candy store. Is that how you look at the scorecard thing?
Absolutely. That's how I look at it. If you pass, we're going down the street. I'm taking you to the candy store. I'm going to buy you some candy. And it is a shame that we African people, Liberia, one of the venues, if not the most critical venue of Pan-Africanism, as Cole has always mentioned to us, is now in a position of a beggar nation. Just keep this in mind, Dennis. We are failing, along with countries like Afghanistan, countries like the Central African Republic, countries like Myanmar, failed states with brutal dictators, and so we are failing along with these countries. It is one of the most, you know, disgraceful things that I have seen in recent years, that we are held to certain metrics. Cole said it right. We should be doing these things anyway. Why aren't you doing these things? So now you have your powerful donor is setting these criteria for you to do, and you are unable to do them. You flunk the test. This is basically what it is. There's no sugarcoating this. Liberia flunked. Liberia flunked because of the failure of leadership. Right now, this administration came into office. When this administration came into office, we have a finance minister. There has been no reshuffle. When was the last time there was a reshuffle? We have a finance minister who is not capable of managing Liberia fiscal policy. So we had under the presidency of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, we have finance ministers who are not perfect, but who did their due diligence to their job. We have at the time we have Gaffron, we also have Amara Kone, both of whom are still available for some sort of consultation if they need to. They do need to consult these guys for their input. Cole will also work with the administration. What is her input? Is anyone consulting her on issues where she has expertise? That is not happening. Dr. Duba Yan is right here in the United States, who has offered his services to the Liberian government. All of this has been turned down. Dr. Yan's offers were turned down because allegedly he is supposed to be part of some kind of opposition political party. And so the bottom line is we are putting ourselves, our leaders are putting themselves in this kind of position, in a very demeaning position. The problem I have is Liberia's inability to do these things by herself, and so we have to be told to do them. This is not, Dennis, foreign interference in developing countries is nothing new. This has been happening from time immemorial. I go back to the administration of William V.S. Tubman. It is said that Tubman's speeches had to be approved by the United States Embassy in Monrovia. That's how attached we have always been to the government of the United States. And Mr. Samuel Doe, during his administration at the OAE summit, at one of the OAE summits, said that he was going to physically fight Colonel Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, the late leader of Libya, that if Gaddafi said something untowards to Ronald Reagan, he was physically going to attack Muammar Gaddafi. So this is nothing new. We have been subservient to imperialist influence for a long time. So my problem is, why are we failing these basic things? And it is a shame. It's not just a shame for the government of Liberia. It's a shame for all proud Black people anywhere in the world. And I think this government, if they are watching, if they are listening, instead of getting upset about people talking about you online or attacking the media, they need to start to do the right thing. But Dennis, they don't care. They don't care. So tomorrow morning, they're going to get up and say, don't mind those people. This is our country. Don't mind those people. So, so right now, the Liberian people are suffering. They are suffering because you have an administration that's not able to govern. So we are failing. We are failing with countries like Afghanistan, countries like the Central African Republic and Myanmar. Just think about that as we progress through this discussion, the rest of this discussion.
Thank you. Mr. Cooney, we may criticize testing, all we want, in school, but so far, that's the only objective way we have to measure the progress of the students. Same with the scorecard, we can think about it whatever way, but those are objective measures to tell us how we are spending. Before, I think under President Salih, we failed once, and under President Weah, this is the third time. So they say we failed 4 times. What do you make of that and the effort the government is making?
Well, look, first of all, I perfectly agree with most of the sentiments expressed on this show. Like I've always said, when it comes to certain things like Liberia, you have to set aside partisanship to discuss what is good for Liberia, because we are Liberians first before we can become part of any organization. I agree with all of the nationalistic sentiments and every other thing that is being said. But sometimes you have to face the problem in real terms. The Liberian people are where they are. And here we are, there is an opportunity for somebody to give us some money without the obligation of paying back. And we are screwing the whole process over. Yeah. We cannot do our best to get this assistance, which means a lot to a lot of people. If you think about the MCC, for example, think about projects like the rehabilitation of the Mount Coffee Dam, and see how many people are benefiting from that project. So the assistance that this compact brings is not a theoretical assistance. It's an assistance that affects real lives. And so for me, it is really disappointing that up to this time, we have not gotten a handle on what we need to do to pass this test. We've been taking this test for 3 times now, and we keep falling short. Part of the information available to me is that some of the data that is needed, for scoring, has not been made available due to pure act of negligence, due to pure act of non-performance of the people that are supposed to perform these type of duties. And I really do think that, this is among many instances where, somebody should be held responsible. Somebody, I heard that the issue on the education for girls, it was either the delay or the inability of someone that's supposed to feed that data into the system. It was not filled in on time. This is why we filled that particular category. At one point, I also heard that maybe either last year or maybe the year before this year, we filled a specific category because certain amount of money that was to be paid was not paid on the time that it's supposed to be paid, but it was paid like 2 or 3 days later. These are unconscionable. If you think about the assistance that is coming to your people, we need every ounce of assistance in our country. Yeah. And for us to be failing this thing because of these gross negligence on behalf of either middle managers or upper managers, and it is going on without anybody taking responsibility, is what actually astounds me. I think there should be somebody that should be held responsible for this. Even in our personal life, when you send your children to school in the failing, you hold somebody responsible. You can't just say, well, you fail, okay, go to school again, buy your uniform. You gotta do something to correct the situation. But it appears that this situation remains uncorrected. That is the disappointing thing about it. Just a few, Liberia is failing along with other countries, and I mean not just Afghanistan. I mean Cameroon failed, other countries are failing, but that's not the excuse. The question is, this is free money that we have no obligation of paying back. It's like I'm in a financial jam and somebody is giving me a grant, and I'm not even able to clear that condition to get a grant, which could be used to change my life. And it is really sad. It is disappointing. I mean, I think the government need to come up clearly to identify those who are responsible for this failure. And I really think there should be some kind of punitive measure taken, because we can't continue like this. This is 257 million that we're talking about. But you know, it is good that we're talking about this money. But again, we got to be creative on other things. You know, the other group of people that send money to Liberia far larger than this amount. It is the Liberian diaspora. By our account, we send about $400 million to Liberia. What are the policy decisions that are being made, you know, to appreciate this money that Liberians send to their country every year? These are
and that's grant money.
Yeah, that's grant money. Nobody pays it back.
Nobody pays it back. That's true.
Mr. Coffee, let me come to you on the how is the data that feeds into this scorecard? How is that data collected, and why did we fail?
You know, so like my big brother Wilmot said, you know, I mean he's my big brother actually, not blood brother, but he's my big brother. We are from the same area, so I've known him for a long time. But I would differ with him a little bit about those who are responsible, because this is a government thing, right? Government must design a plan, and that checklist must be met. And if people say they can't do certain things or they have the inability, you got to provide the resource for them to do those things. So, for example, if you're not providing goods and services, people, you know, entities are running out of sheets, running out of this, are running out of that. You can't squeeze water out of rock. So, if you know you have to meet this Millennium Challenge scope, and you are expecting this huge amount. So let's flip back to a few years ago. What you know, between 2015 and 2018, Liberia passed consistently in the 3 areas. Because when it comes to those things, for example, girls' education, right? Whether it's primary or high school education, as an indicator on investing in people, the Ministry of Education have to coordinate that. And you have to provide the Ministry of Education with the latitude and the feeders. And if they need certain things, because some of these things can even be just passing a law or passing a regulation, all right? Or there's a checklist, if I may say, there's a checklist. And there has to be a committee that is formed so that that checklist can be met, and they'll have meetings. So there has to be a steering committee in Liberia. They had the Millennium Challenge Corporation, they had a group in Liberia, which was headed by one of the former government officials in the Chancellor government, I think it was Money Captain or something like that, right? And the government itself needs to coordinate that at the top level. Because if this money don't come, this is money that we could have, and of course, we're not going to get the money right away if we have passed this year anyway, because it was going to take a few other years for us to qualify for that money, right? So, but if we need to pass, we need to do every time you have to have a meeting, you have to have a PowerPoint presentation to say, okay, this is the checklist. Who is responsible? You need to do a box. Which one? This is the indicator, right? This indicator number 1. Which entity is responsible for it? Where are you? Right? And there has to be consistent meetings. And if somebody is not meeting is part of the bargain. You have to ask why. Is there resource constraint?
Mr. Coffee, I'm sorry. Let me put you on the spot. You were in the Ellen government where we, according to you, we passed consistently. Was that being done?
You know, I remember a good time. I have a photo for it. With Liberia in an anti-money laundering program with Tabata, West Africa, and Liberia did not do well at a particular time. And Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came in my face. She came in my face. Why? And I told her why right there. I also looked in her face and told her why. She said, see me. Go to the central bank governor. You'll come. That lady called me. Even if for 5 minutes, she will pick up the phone. She said, go so. Y'all go do this. Y'all go do this. Because if we don't do this, our financial system will break and we'll not get the Norwegian fund, we'll not get that other fund, we'll not get the other money. And when we did all that, we pass. All right? So if you know you fail year one, you have to put in measures. You have to, leadership. It's not to come and say, oh, the Minister of Education didn't do this, or the Minister of Land and Man didn't do this, and that what we fail, the person didn't get the data, that what we fail. What did you do, the process leading to that time? That 20 indicators, you only have to pass 10. We already consistently, from the time we started 2012 to 2022, we always pass corruption and democratic rights. We always pass those. We pass them consistently year after year. It is the 10 indicators that we fail in. So it's not somebody fighting corruption here, because every year we pass, because that thing was, those measures were set in long time ago when, for example, GSC was set up, IAA was set up, when all those different institutions were set up, LACC was set up, and all these things were set up. So we have those things, so we consistently pass.
Right, and Alex, that's why
we have NEC, we've been having election consistently, so we have political parties from time to time. We're not putting people in jail for politics and all that stuff. Those things are not happening.
Right.
Those things are things of the past. So those two indicators will always pass year after year. But it's these things that we are failing in the 10 indicators. We only have to pass 10. So if we know we have a weak link, let's put our weak link one side. If we don't have the resources for that weak link, but the place, how will you come out and say, oh, the Minister of Education did not give this data that won't fail? Where were you? Were you sleeping on the data? And like my big brother said, it's hateful. Now our country did not get that money.
So Alex, what I'm asking you here is, because I'm thinking, can they be that, are they biased against our government now? Or that's what I'm saying, how is the data collected? What make, was it that President Sirleaf, they like her? So how is the data collected? How these things are calculated for which we're filling now 3 times in a row?
No, I don't think it's about liking somebody. You have the Millennium Challenge Corporation. They have a board of directors, a whole structure set up. Nobody can influence, and they have independent bodies, even off the Millennium Challenge, that collect this data. Some of these things, right? They are done by, let me explain to you, okay? For example, control of corruption indicators, right? It's under ruling justly. That data is directed by the World Bank and the broking institution. Okay? So the World Bank, every time they go to your country, they see these things they provide. The fiscal indicators, they work through the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. Okay? The freedom of information indicators, they work through the reporters without borders. The Center for Law and Democracy. Those are U.S. independent NGOs or organizations that collect these data. So there are different people: World Bank, UNESCO, UNICEF for the health indicators, the IMF. IMF is working with all agricultural development, varieties on democracy, different institutions. Okay, so it's not just the trade policy indicators, the Heritage Foundation. Those are independent NGOs. So they have a yardstick. They have the forms.
Okay.
They have the different formats, and they have the different questionnaires, right? The different things that you have to do for that
Right.
year. So they'll come to you now. They come periodically to the country, or they ask for this data. Say, have you done this? Have you done that? It's just that you go to school, and they provide you with the education.
Right. And they give you open book tests.
They give you everything. Say, oh, you had a test here. They give you all the indicator. At this, by the end of the year, or by this time, you should give us this. You should give us this. You should give us this. So all you have to do now is say, okay, what they're asking us, what a list of things they're asking for.
Yeah.
It's like condition precedent.
Thank you.
For example, the African Development said before we give you the budget support of 200 million, you have to do this, you have to do that. I have been there when I work in the government. Those are things that, for me, when they say condition precedent, subject to this, you will get this money, that is what boils my blood. Every time the African Development say, oh, before we give you the budget support of 50 million, you got to pass the FIU law. You got to pass the other law. You got to pass the other regulation. I'm on fire. I work like crazy.
And let me put in this comment, maybe to
And those kind of
bottom
things, the president can be on top of it, hands on.
Right. Stephen Johnson, I believe, too, working in the government. He said we work our butts off to pass the MCC. We're leaving work at 11 p.m. every day at the Ministry of Finance.
Exactly.
That sounds like true?
It's true. We work. I get up 3 o'clock in the morning when the conditional president reads. I get up 3 o'clock in the morning. I don't sleep. Because my country has to pass and has to get that money. It's the country first, not me, not the president, the country first, and my duty to the country.
Carl, it looks to me that it's like you've been taking tests. So December, when we used to time for promotion lists to be read, it looked like that's the only time the government is studying for this open book test. But this thing have to start from first period.
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I agree with everything Mr. Coffee is saying. I had the privilege of interacting with him once when we both served. Let me say this. I think part of the problem that the current administration is facing is they didn't prepare themselves for leadership. They spent a lot of time tearing down the previous administration, which is the responsibility of opposition. You're supposed to criticize government. You're supposed to challenge government where they're weak. But they didn't realize how much work was being done. And a lot of Liberian people don't realize how hard people worked and how many decent human beings served in the government. There's this myth that there's just this blanket corrupt group of people with no skills, just sitting down there, just eating money, and it's a complete lie. There's no position that I served in government where I did not work exorbitantly, long, ridiculous hours. The amount of work that is to be done in Liberia cannot be done in a 40 or 50-hour work week. If you're in charge of anything, it means you have to sacrifice all of your time. Your children, your family, everybody gets put on hold. I remember a particular night I was so frustrated leaving the Ministry of Transport at about quarter to midnight. My husband had to come and pick me up because nobody, driving home, we passed by the foreign ministry, the president's convoy. This is quarter to midnight. The president's convoy was still parked. And my husband said, "You complaining." And this, excuse my language, the old lady is still sitting in the office. You understand? So this was not just, President Sirleaf yelling at Alex Coffey. Herself used to work until daybreak if she needed to get certain things done. And one of the greatest errors that the WE administration made when they took power was they came in the situation as if it was a coup d'etat or a revolution. They removed many of the technocrats. I remember they fired everyone down to the HR. I said, this is extremely dangerous. A lot of these people are civil servants and they're professionals and they're experts. You can't just acquire this knowledge and this understanding overnight. What are they going to do? How are they going to govern the country without these people? I'm not talking about political appointees, of course, that needs to be changed. But I'm talking about the technocrats. You fire everybody down to the HR and replace them with people who don't have experience. And that was one of the problems. And it's coming back to bite us. There's a covenant if you serve in government for up to 10 years, the government can call upon you to answer questions, to offer advice, to give your expertise, to give your experience. They can call anybody and say, hey, y'all work on this thing, y'all come, or let us know over the phone, or send us this information, or give us this advice. They have every right to reach out to whoever they need to. I don't know if that's happening, but that's part of the reason why we're in the situation that we're in. Is just, everyone in the past was demonized, and now it's like they don't want to reach out to them.
Yeah, even in small communities like what we have here, I was part of our community organization, and when we left power, I put together all the materials for the government, the administration after, but they couldn't even look at it. They demonized everybody as like it was Jai who was. So I don't know. But Mr. Cooney, let me come back to you. In this case, what you think can be done? Because as you said, I call this open book test. You know what you are measured on, and you didn't look at it until the scorecard came and you say, oh, it was this guy who didn't do it. In your view, what do you think we can do to pass this open book test?
Well, it's doing exactly everything that is being suggested here tonight. Like we're saying, first, you need a leadership that will step up to make sure that these things are corrected. Again, I take it on a personal level. If you have your child who is failing from year to year, you the parent, you have to take charge. You have to take charge and want to find out why is that child failing and what you can do to improve the child grade. So it's what is required here. And my little brother disagree with me. The point I was making is that, all of these things, there is somebody that is responsible or should be responsible in government for this, and whoever that is responsible that is not being responsible to ensure that the country, meet this threshold. I'm saying that person should be sanctioned. It can't just be, okay, we fail now, nobody to blame, nobody to talk to, let's try again. And then the same attitude continues. And like you said, these things require engagement. The test is an open book test. All the chapters, the chapters are available. So why are we not reading that? So, the solutions is right here on this set. The suggestions from Carl, the suggestion from Alex, and all of us here, what we are saying. This is unacceptable. This is free money. Not only that it's free, but it impacts people's lives. It impacts people's lives. It makes a difference. We're talking about construction of roads. There are some roads now that can't even be initiated because the funding is not available. Who knows? Maybe if we are getting this compact, they could have targeted some of those funding to road construction, to different things, to electricity, to water, to even the trash collection we're talking about. I don't know. But, there are a lot of things that the country could benefit from this. So I share the passion of everybody here. This is not acceptable. We can't make excuses. The government will have to step up to the plate. And those who are responsible for this thing, they have to step up to their duties and their responsibility to the Republic of Liberia. And if they're not doing it, I think sanction, this is one of the areas, one of the places where sanctions should be appropriate, because it is not just the failure of that individual that may impact maybe him and some other people. This failure affects the nation. It affects us all.
Mr. Sharif, it is very hard to regulate yourself or to punish yourself when you fail, right? So this is where politics come in. Now, Liberia has failed. And so whose job it is to make sure that we get it right, right? We have 3 equal branches supposed to be equal. So definitely, for instance, the finance minister is not going to punish himself. And we know finance minister. And So looking at it politically, where you think the pressure should come from to make sure that this is corrected? Because it's like we are just hearing about a millennial goal at the time the scorecard is presented.
Right.
But the test has been given ever since the open book test has been around this place forever. Why did we come to know about this today? And who can do something? Where can the pressure come from so that there can be some result the next time?
I like when you say the open book test. When we will get open book tests, I never failed my open book test. I love it. I love the open book test when I was a child. But on a serious note, I agree with Mr. Coney. Maybe for one of the few times I will agree with him that punitive measures need to be taken. However, there is no leadership. So when you say who is going to be punished, so we have to start from the president of the Republic of Liberia. So there is no leadership. You heard Alex talked about how the president of the Republic, the former president, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, came to his office and in a very serious tone, go get the governor and come see me. That is leadership. That's leadership. You don't see that right now. So we have a finance minister who doesn't know what he's doing, and yet he keeps his job. He still keeps his job, right? He still has a job. Even after this time, he will still continue to have a job. So to begin on addressing this issue, it has to start from the top. So to me, that's what 2023 should be about. One of the things that 2023 should be about, that the opposition should be talking about right now, is this. This is gold for the opposition right now. Okay, but they're not going to also talk about it because they also don't have a plan. Okay, so when they get in position, they're going to do the same thing that George Weah is doing right now.
Mr. Sherry, let me hold you there. Liberia has failed. We're supposed to get millions of dollars. We don't have that, and you say this is gold for opposition?
It's gold for the opposition. Okay, my adversary has failed. My adversary has failed. I'm going to capitalize on that for political purposes. You think politics is clean? Politics is not clean. This is not a clean game. Okay, Bill Clinton said politics is a contact game. It's a contact sport. And that's what this is. This is gold for the opposition. George Weah and his cronies are going to be just fine. They're going to be fine. It is the Liberian people that are left holding the bag. And so this discussion, everything that we're talking about now, should center around the Liberian people, the suffering people who are living in these dirty cities and towns, filthy towns and cities with no roads, cities with no schools, no pipe-borne water, no electricity. So we're talking about $250 million. Isn't that what we're talking about? That's what we're talking about right now. So do you know how many schools that this school built in the interior? How many lives this will impact? So the fact that the government has failed is gold for the opposition. The opposition needs to capitalize on this. The opposition needs to seize this moment to tell us that they are the alternative. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. I surmise they're not going to do that because they also don't have a plan, especially at a time that they're bickering among themselves. And therein lies the frustration of a lot of serious-minded independents like myself, because you don't have a viable alternative to the one that we have now. So if there's one out there, please stand up. Please show up now, because this one that we have, they've agreed that failure, this administration of George Weah has agreed that failure is acceptable. Mediocrity is acceptable. We have to collectively say no to that. No, mediocrity is not acceptable. No, failure is not acceptable. I mean, think about it. The other day, the United States ambassador berated our country, berated our administration because the ambassador said that the United States government is tired supporting the Liberia Electricity Corporation. The ambassador is against berating Liberia. This ambassador, you know what, Dennis? I think this ambassador needs to go to the executive mansion, and George Weah goes to the U.S. Embassy. I think they need to swap roles.
That's a threat.
He needs to run. I think the ambassador needs to actually run the country, because I think the ambassador is doing a better job than any other opposition out there, than the president himself, and certainly than any other opposition out there, because this is the thing that the opposition should be talking about. So within the next 24 to 48 hours, we have to hear something. But you haven't heard anything yet. I haven't seen anything, right, that the opposition has said. So this is a big deal. The fact that your government, our government, has failed, along with failed states like Afghanistan, like the Central African Republic, okay, like Myanmar, formerly Burma. It's something, to be said about that. So you are in a class with this dog boy, and so now the grade cards come around, and you were the big time guy in school, and now you and this dog boy is going to fail. This is a disgrace. It is a disgrace.
Thank you, and that's a great segue to what I want to just wrap up this new one about the U.S. American government said they are tired with the corruption. But there's one thing they said, and Mr. Sherrill, you alluded to that earlier about the electricity. And Mr. Coffee, I'm coming to you there, because when the MCC, when they give us the money, they have special place. They say, hey, do this with the money, and we're going to come back to check. And when I was making my research, they say they look at few things, right? They say, hey, was the MCC's investment implemented according to plan? Because that's transparency. Other thing they look at, did the investment produce the intended results? Did it achieve a stated objective in pursuit of MCC's mission to reduce poverty through economic growth? And that's accountability. And the next thing they look at, why did or didn't the investment achieve certain results? And that's as a learning process. So the reason these people, they can get up and, as we were saying in Liberia, put their mouth on us is because they give us some money. They say, do this. Sometimes we don't do it. So now the last time Mr. Sherry used the word to say they were berating the Liberian government for how we do the power business. Now they come back and say, hey, we are tired of supporting you because every time we give you money, we don't see the result. So this is the new American tired with Liberia's corruption. We are very discouraged to see the lack of progress, says the U.S. ambassador. Another thing that was said before I give it to you, is the U.S. is very concerned about Liberia's failure to get another Millennium Challenge Corporation deal, while at the same time, members of both parties in the United States Congress are tired of funding development in Liberia and seeing no results. Mr. Coffey.
Yeah. For me, it's not about the politics, all right? I like to rise above the politics, This is about Liberia, all right? And I was just looking at some of the comments, and Jimmy Eastman.
Yeah, we're coming to the comments right after your comments.
Yeah, but I'm trying to lay the business of what I'm trying to say. And Jimmy Eastman said, not all open book tests are easy, okay? So some open book tests can be very difficult because you have to think.
Especially statistics.
You have to reason. And he was quoting one course he did in law. You have to do a lot of reasoning, because if you don't do a lot of reasoning, you can open a book all day. It's like they say, you can open a book in front of those students, they will stay fit, right? So open book test not necessarily hard, no. So I think because one of the reasons why we in Liberia pass consistently for 4 years from 2015 to 2018 is because, as my little brother Vita too said on this comment, there was an interministerial MCC steering committee.
Mm-hmm.
There was an interministerial that was responsible for ensuring that every entity that was involved, they laid the scorecard, they laid the plan, they put all the institutions, and I remember this is some of the way. So I think going forward, and this is my advice to the government, as a patriotic Liberian who wants to see my government succeed, who wants to see that we pass the next year and pass the next year and pass the next year, whoever in power, all right, whether that we are or whoever. But for now, that we have as our president. So this advice goes to President Josh Manning Weah. Form a group, whether you call it interministerial committee or you call it Millennium Challenge Committee. If you need to bring consultants, and some of us are prepared to do it from remote. Right now, we're working remotely. I'm not looking for a job in Liberia per se. I'm not doing a page for a job, but I am just trying to sound patriotic. That even if you have to use consultants, the reason why I say people do it remotely, there are a lot of qualified Liberians in and out of Liberia. If the ministers are busy, then use a different group so that they can take care of that. Some Liberians could do it free. Some Liberians can do it for little or nothing. Okay? Some of the money, the $257 million we got, some of that was used to the office of the MCC to buy all the different computers, those software. Some of that money was used there for administrative reasons. Not all the money went to the electricity grid or the other projects. Some of that money went to keep upkeeping the office. So if we can spend some of that money on upkeeping the office, you can spend some of that money to bring in other people in who can take charge of that, and they'll be held responsible. And if the president will have direct control over them, direct hands-on control over them, he has to do that so that we pass next year. So for me, the politics and all that is not my concern. It's about my country passing. Like my big brother Wilmore Collins said, it hurt us that we are not getting that money to do some of the projects that George Weah was intending to do, or some of the road projects, some of the other projects that he was intending to do. It's saddening that we can't get that.
But Mr. Coffey, one of the money they gave us, was for electricity, and we didn't use it, and that's why they were mad at us.
There's also, we got to talk so too. There's also other things were not done properly in the past and all that stuff. We know some of those things, but we can't say because something was not done in the past, so we'll not do it good, or they didn't do it good the last time, so we'll not do it good now. Because we are in charge now, so we have to look forward. We have to do it properly. Because the reason why we came to power is because to take our people out of poverty. That's why we designed the Pro-Po. It's not to shift blame they didn't do it, or the other country didn't pass. No, this is about us. This is about lifting our people out of poverty.
Thank you. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we're going to read comments and open our phone lines. I see a lot of people want to participate in the discussion. So we're going to take a short break. If you are there and you want to join the discussion, our number is on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. We are discussing the MCC scorecard. Again, it's unfortunate that we have failed an open book test.
At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
We have some comments here. Martin said the MCC needs to lower her benchmark so we can pass. The passing grades of government grade 50. You want us to go lower than that?
That is 50.
It continued. Liberia has been struggling to meet the MCC over the last 4 years. Minister Tua told Liberians the government has put all mechanisms into place to meet up with the compact. Why are we still finding it difficult? I think Minister Tua have been concentrating on surplus, budget surplus. So maybe these other ones that he has not been paying much attention. I don't know. Stephen Johnson, the scorecard looks at 20 indicators ranging from the economy, rule of law to effective governance. Willie Hina, the subjects are so hard for Liberia. Wow. Summer school now. Yeah, I thought about that too, because if you fail 3 times in any school, they give you NTR. So I don't know what's going to happen. Mr. Coffee, what happens if you are consistently failing? Do you get kicked out?
Well, in some schools, like the high school I went to, if you fail in 12th grade twice, you get expelled.
Yeah. So since we keep failing this MCC, what happens?
Yes, St. Patrick's, those days when you don't get certain score, you get kicked out. So, but there are different. They got measures for suspension and they got measures for termination. So, when you get to that point, they can terminate. Yeah. So for right now, you could be suspended. For some time, you could be, you could be terminated. I mean, you can be expelled if you don't do certain things. So
that's scary.
For example, you're not meeting the criteria for graduation. You're not improving availability or quality of the data. You're not, rising income.
Right.
Those things can, they can lead to, suspension or termination.
Right. I saw that. They say eligibility for assistance can be suspended or terminated for several reasons, including if a country engages in a pattern of actions inconsistent with the eligibility criteria. Cole, does that scare you?
No.
Why not?
Because I think, that these things will be corrected, and I don't think there's any precedent of the U.S. pulling out. There's a thing that we keep saying: free money, free money, free money. The U.S. has interest in keeping engaged in this, and they're not going to just, abandon Liberia, because there is a reciprocal relationship here. We still are extremely important as far as being in a strategic location for U.S. interest as well. So this is not just for nothing. I alluded to that earlier. But with that being said, I think that President Weah needs to take the advice of people who love the country, people who want to see him succeed, people who want to see Liberia succeed. I think he needs to heed their advice. I think he needs to take action, corrective action. President Sirleaf had, she was on her second finance minister at this point in her first term. There's a reason for that. Dr. Sire did a wonderful job, but being a minister of finance in a country like Liberia, you will get burnt out, even if you're a genius like Dr. Sire. He needs to reevaluate this. I don't really understand why we have these same people in positions and they're continuously failing, and he doesn't find the need to change them. These are not the only Liberian citizens. They're not even the only Cibicians capable, even if he only wants to hire people from his party. which is absurd, but if that's what he wants to do, there are other people in his party that are also capable of taking on some of these responsibilities. It is necessary for the president to put the country first. As far as this whole conversation about opposition being silent, I don't know what my brother Mohammed's understanding of what opposition means. The coalition political parties are that's not the only opposition to the government. One. Two, the leaders of the coalition political parties are not the only opposition to government. So there are many people being vocal. I was listening to radio podcasts in Liberia. I'm not talking about Facebook stuff, but actual podcasts from Liberia this morning. And I was very impressed with how articulate a lot of people are. Aliyu, who's working with the Millennium Challenge Corporation right now, he had so much brilliant input as well. So there's a lot going on. I don't think it's fair to people who have been consistently and constructively criticizing the government to just say the opposition is silent. I don't only look to what's his name, Cummings or Boakai to speak. There are many other Liberian people who are articulate.
Thank you. And while we are doing this, I just got a message from a FOL fan who is watching. He say want to let us know that he's watching on the wide screen, and he sent me the picture of that. I thought that was cute. I'm watching you guys on my wide screen. More comments here. Dave, the Liberian Good Governance Commission should have been given more teeth and allowed to function effectively instead of the obsession with imperial scoreboard.
Thank you, David, Dave Jad. Because even if you didn't want to form an interministerial committee or stuff like that, that governance commission could be an institution to be used if it was, it's an institution to use for those kind of things. Even if you don't want to form an extra or you don't want to bring consultant in that institution. And I always say, and I will say this publicly. Right?
You mean this institution where they were putting Wamodiki?
Oh God.
Go ahead.
I put my flag up. But I don't, let me be frank here. I don't think President George Manawia is short of qualified people. The problem is putting those qualified people to work. And if you put the right people in the right places, it will not be perfect, but it will be a little easier. So for example, if this governance commission was properly staffed with the right caliber of people, we could use that. If they are not staffed with the right caliber of people, then bring in other people that would do this Millennium Challenge thing on the consultative basis. They do their work, they move from there. The same way other reports that the international community, when you bring other people in, Liberians in, they do it quickly, and you give them their rating or you do whatever, you pat them on the back, and they go their way. They do it, and the country is successful. I have personal experiences where people have gone to the country to help with different situations, right? So people can do that, especially with the Millennium Challenge thing. People can do that if it's dependent. If our life depends on it, then this and what I'm saying, I'm speaking directly to Georgia. If he's listening, or if he will listen to this, I'm speaking to the president.
Right. Thank you. Let me open our phone lines. We have a lot of calls here, so let's start taking them now. The first call here is from Kesali Dobo. Each of you have 1 minute. Please, panelists, take out your pen so we can write this down. Kesali, you are live. Hold on 1 minute. Go ahead, Kesali. You're live.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ja, and thanks to your panelists. On the show tonight. Mr. Ja, it is sad. The panelists have just kept saying over and over. Student, you go to school, you pay the first year, you didn't get it, the second year, you did not get it, and the third one again, you're still not doing nothing. And someone will take this for fun. Last year, when this school came or the president came on, actually the president doesn't really know how these things work. If you can remember, President, we came out and said every time the post say we fail. I think what we need to do now is to bring tutorial class, teachers to be teaching on how to pass. People take it for fun. Here we are today. And I think those who are running, president, who have ideas in some of these areas, are not willing to bring people from the outside. Because maybe they are living in this glass house, or maybe they think they are living in this bubble. They have a lot going on in there, is that they are afraid to bring others from outside. Maybe there are things they have in there, thinking that people might take it out. And that is their fear. And I can tell you one thing, Mr. Jazz, people will not learn from this thing. Trust me. At the end of next year, you and I will be discussing the same thing that we are discussing today. Because Samuel Tuel, who is at least people think that he has ideas on this thing, I don't think he's telling the president that we can do this, we can bring people from the outside to help us. I want to believe he's telling the president that I know it, I can do it. Because he's the only one to look up for this thing. And he is not telling them that thing. And I can assure you that next year, we don't wish for it, but for the fact that we said it last year, it didn't work, and we are saying it again, next year, you and I will be ready to be discussing the same thing that we are discussing it again. And nothing will come from other. But the president said, they're going to bring us to the rock class teacher last year, when the last election came out, and nothing happened. And now you see what's going on again. And I can assure you that next year again, you and I will be discussing the same thing because these people are not going to learn from it. Thank you.
Thank you. Tabina Cole, you next. Welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Good evening. Yeah, thanks for the discussion. I was calling to contribute to the MCC the report. Dennis, I could see the report, and I didn't want to just take it as is. So I went ahead and did a 4-year analysis, just looking at the various indicators that the country is feeling. And you'll be surprised that even though there are 10 things that we were score on, for 9 of those 10 things that the country, Liberia, has failed for 4 years, consistently failed. For me, that is concerning because when the auditors come to your office, say year 1, and do an audit, and they identify those findings or, issues, you come up with a corrective action plan and you fix those problems so that when the auditors come the next year, you don't have those same problems. For whatever your fiscal policy, whatever your regulatory or quality, all these things, 9 sections persistently. So it is very concerning. And, all of your panelists kind of talk about it and say, why fail? Because people are paying you to do your work. If you look at the stuff and see where they're pulling this data from, they're putting it for the U.S. Human Rights Report, from UNESCO, for WHO, World Bank. These are things that you already knew about. These reports came out before the MCC report. So it's more like a double audit. So you should have fixed those issues first when the WHO report and all those reports came out. You should have used the opportunity to fix those issues so it doesn't transcend to this report. But again, we all know this government lacks the know-how, the skills and experience, and they're so embarrassed or prideful to ask for resources because we're willing to assist in every way possible. This is a quick fix. Let me be quick. What I'm telling government is through my research. I'm not a big fan of that government, but I will tell you one good thing concerning this report. They had issues. I think some of your panelists alluded to that, but they came up with an ad hoc committee. When they came up with that committee, not only did they come up with a committee, they got ministries involved. They also worked with those external country agencies like the UNESCO, the same people that came up with those supplementary reports, in order to fix those problems. And when you find out that most of these things are data-driven, it's just from bad data, just data, or just checklists. Some of these things are just simple checklists. Did you do this? No, yes, no, yes, no. And so through that, I want to tell you, we're able to fix our problem. And so then we all know we got that $257 billion, and that's how it was used for roads, infrastructure, and for the hydro. So why can't the government fix these issues for 4 years consistently? I just don't get it, but I think it's important to note that everybody's looking at 1 year, but they're not looking at 9 areas for 4 years. I think it's important to note that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let me get the last caller for the night, that Amos Songo. Amos, you're live.
Yes, thanks so much, Dennis. I just wanted to respectfully disagree with the previous caller who said that some of those things are just yes or no checkoff. No, they're not. Because if you say yes, the poor have to verify. So that's one thing. Number two, I want to disagree with Mr. Coffee, Alex. You know, I like his analysis and all of that. But one thing he did say was that it's all about bringing people that are competent. Look, as a leader, if you're not capable, if you're not competent, there's no way you're going to find competent people. Because in the first place, you know, your premise will be wrong. Everything that you think about is wrong. So at least you don't have to be at the level of the competent people that you're bringing in, but you have to have some sort of competency in order for you to know that, hey, you know what you're doing is wrong. When somebody is blank, they're just blank, plain blank. I mean, that's my saying on that. But finally, my question is to Mr. Coffey. If you had a scorecard where you get a fiscal policy is 38%, inflation is 17%, which of the ministers will you fire? That's number one. Number two, if you have regulatory policy at 38% scorecard, and then trade policy at 37%. So give me at least two of the ministers that should be gone by now. That's what, and you know, let me just say this on the issue of inflation. Mr. Tua was on the platform quite recently. He said he's not in charge of inflation. I want Mr. Coffey to address that. Does fiscal policy also is fiscal policy a component of the government that has to control inflation, especially when it comes to long-term policy? So these are my questions for Mr. Coffey.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Mr. Coffey, go ahead. Let's start from the bottom.
Well, you want to start from the bottom? Yeah, you know, to the call, I didn't quite get his name. I wish I
Amos.
Huh?
Amos.
Yeah, Amos. Good comment and good question. Okay, and you are right. You know, to kind of critique what I said, but you know, I also like to look at my mother, who stopped in only 4th grade or 6th grade. The Oma, our mother who didn't go to school. But you know what? They got common sense. They know that once they didn't go to school, they know that there were certain failures in their life, or they didn't get to certain places because of lack of school. So what they do is they do what they do best, sell their labor market, and make sure their children get to where they want to get. And for them to do certain things where they're not capable, they bring other people to advise them. It is common sense. It is not all the education and all the this. So I was speaking from the context that leader should possess that common sense to be able to say, you know what, if I don't know this, because the one person cannot know everything, but I have to look from the best of the brightest to bring them. And if they're not doing the thing right, I'll get rid of them. It doesn't take rocket science to know that. If this thing is not doing right, I will do dress right dress. I will do this. I will do that. That's common sense.
Right.
And that's why I was indicating you have a playing field of a lot of qualified best and brightest. You can pick among them. So it just have to do with common sense. Now, on the issue of who to fire and who not to fire, it's not in my purview to say who will fire, but these things I would tell you, fiscal policy, inflation, and those things you line up, there are different line ministries that are responsible for that. Okay? And their combination. So, for example, fiscal policy would be the Ministry of Finance. Inflation could be a combination of the Ministry of Finance and the central bank. The central bank, right? So I don't know if you want the president to just fire his
no, but it's just important to see where we should be looking, because I watched the show he's referring to where Mr. Tua kind of vehemently rejected that it's not in his purview. But again, you don't go buy your grocery to a hardware store. So if you want actual economic discussion, watch Everywhere Marketplace.
Yeah, so some of the things are like trade policy. We feel in trade policy, it has to do a combination with the Ministry of Finance, the business registry, the National Investment Commission, all these things that are people that are regulatory quality. If you understand regulatory quality, also it could be Ministry of Justice, it could be a combination of the Ministry of Finance, it could be different people. Rule of law is clearly rule of law. It has to do with the Ministry of Finance, it has to do with the security sector, it has to do with police, it has to do with the National Security Agency. So those are things. Government effectiveness. Of course, government effectiveness has to do with the governance. It has to do with the president himself. It has to do with the Ministry of State. So it's a tough game. Primary education. It has to do with Ministry of Education, natural resource. Of course, there's federal FDA involved. There is Ministry of Land and Mines and Energy involved. All these different entities are involved. So it cuts across.
Thank you, Mr. Coffey. Let me get my last caller, and then Mr. Kune, you will come in. Caller, your name and where you calling from?
Call from New York.
Your name again, please.
Sarah Sneh.
Oh, Sarah Sneh. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I think the issues, the reasons why our country keeps failing is we have people, most of our leaders lack of vision. Now, in the past government, where I worked in the health sector in the interior, what I do know for our health ministry, for us to be able to reduce under 5 mortality, to be able to make that compact, the compact agreement, I do remember that the Minister of Health and his team used to go to each of the county health teams. And look, we always have quarterly review meeting. In our quarterly review meeting, each of those counties were created and, as high-performing counties that, I give each county the spirit to be able to work and produce results. So at the county level, money were going in the counties and we were going into the community, having meetings with the community with respect to improving maternal health and child health. But look, if you find out what is obtaining in the health sector in Liberia now, the hospitals hardly get allotment before I'm talking about the issue of the county health team. So how do you expect drugs to be at a facility level? How do you expect that the officer in charge or the nurses that are sitting at villages will be able to treat or walk in the community to go when they don't even have gas in the motorbike? So besides the issue of bringing policy into place, there's the issue of implementation at the peripheral level, and that is lacking in this government. So the issue of just reading the book, look, indicators that are measured are coming from the field. The reports are coming from the field. So if gasoline supplies are not going in the field, how do you get the reports? How do people go into the field to get reports or even to do implementation?
Thank you.
So there is people see in Liberia, in Moravia, money only good for them. When they put the money in the packet and just pick, GVS, both in the street of Moravia, and forget about what is obtaining in the internet, where the data is coming from to be able to make the government to be good. Those are issues. There are a lot of policies that are put into place that this government has in power can be able to use those policies. The only thing is the issue of implementation.
Thank you, Sarah.
The resources so that people on the field can do the work and give you the data that you need to be able to succeed.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for your contribution. Mr. Kune, I see you drinking your Sakumurian juice in that purple cup. What's your response to the many colors? You can pick any one of them.
Well, look, listen, as I indicated, I think this is a serious topic that is being discussed very seriously by my colleagues here. And as you indicated, I mean, I'm a strong supporter of the government, of the president, but the support is rooted in the fact that we want to see progress in our country. And where there are impediments to progress, in addition to our support, we also need to call the government or the president attention to it. What we're hearing on this panel are a set of ideas that can get us from where we are. The president is committed to building rules. The president is committed to doing a lot of things for the Liberian people. We know how limited we are in terms of resource constraint. And so this is why, I mean, some of us are really disappointed that this kind of help that is coming that will be very, very crucial in advancing the Pro agenda is not coming because of our consistent failure. So I think it would be in the interest of the government, it would be in the interest of the president to, to take some of these suggestions. This is one criticism I found very productive, because I mean, out of this criticism, my hope is that some set of actions will be taken so that next year, when we meet here, we will not be talking about a failing report card. We'll be talking about a passing report card. Yeah. And I think that should be the intent of these discussions. It is not to bring people down or tear people down, but it's to build our country up, because we have the responsibility to the country. I mean, this is a serious thing. We recognize, yes, the United States government, they do have their interests. Every country has their interests. Like I always say, the international system is not social charity. There is no country out there dividing things because they feel like dividing them. But notwithstanding, as they are advancing their interests, we should also be strategic and strong enough to advance our own interests. And this is where some of the leadership issues come in. So I'm totally in agreement with my colleagues here. I think some of the callers are making very beautiful points. And my expectation is that my government, my president, will hear some of these things outside the box, so that we can begin, in addition to other resources, adding the resources of the compact to resolve the many, many, many issues of the Liberian people.
Thank you. Few comments here before I get your... Sam Wallace said, do not offer consulting services for free, Mr. Coffee. Free is never appreciated or respected anywhere. Establish your fee for service every time. Noel Brown say, the problem with LRB TV, I think it means focus on Liberia. Not many people of the public in Liberia are watching your program. If more people were watching this educational, informational program, things will start to change. Jimmy Eastman, we have to measure the earned value in our projects. Who was measuring the face-to-face progress of the electricity project? The past administration has much to show on this issue. And then let me read this. Jonathan Sa, Sierra Leone passed 13 of the indicators. Are we saying the Sierra Leoneans are smarter than us? I don't think this is about smart, right?
No, the person is asking the question in context.
Yeah.
So what the person is trying to say about if the ring can pass, as the librarian will say, but it's a ring can pass, what we can pass? That's what the person is trying to say in context.
Yeah, Mr. Sharif.
Yes.
Any respond to our callers and the comments?
Certainly, the last one they talked about Sierra Leone passing 13 out of 20. There's a reason for that. Sierra Leone has better leadership. And so that is plain and simple, and that's what it shows. And so, you don't expect anything other than that. So, Mr. Koenig, as you were talking, I think you saw my gesture there. I was really clapping for you when you said you agree with the criticism, and this is very patriotic of you, and I want to commend you. I want to commend you for actually for doing that, even though you may be the intellectual brain, behind the CDC. But just going back to something Cole mentioned, yeah, I do understand that politics is about leadership. So the political parties are not in the business, and I should say political parties. The political parties are not in the business of just sitting around. Okay, they want to be the government. They are the government in waiting. So from political party number one to political party number last, I look at the top tier political parties in the country. So the top political candidates, the top opposition candidates, cannot defer their responsibility to political party number 20 and say, they're gonna comment on this, so we might as well move on to something else. We don't have time for that. So if you are Boycott, if you are Cummins, if you are Uri, and you're not commenting on this, at what point are you going to comment? And I'm not just talking about this issue. There are a whole host of issues. The United States ambassador talked about the LEC, the whole LEC fiasco. What was the position of the top opposition candidates? What is the position of the top opposition candidates on the issue of ritualistic killings, on the issue of murders? John Hillary was murdered the other day. William R. Tolbert III was murdered the other day. And these are just people who are prominent. What about the common citizens across the length and breadth of that country who are disappearing, who are being murdered endlessly under the watchful eyes of the George Weah administration? So yes, the opposition needs to step up. What about corruption? All of the corruption that we've talked about on this show. What is the role of the opposition? Are you going to wait till you get to the executive mansion before you start to do something? Do something now. Show to the Liberian people what stuff you're made of. I remember it was Joe Biden, when he was Senator Biden at the time, who launched the vociferous campaign against Donald Rumsfeld, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld, after the Abu Ghraib incident in Baghdad, Iraq. And in a matter of a month or so, Donald Rumsfeld was gone. He was fired because the opposition at the time said they're not going to accept anything short of Donald Rumsfeld being fired. Who in Liberia is talking for the ordinary Liberians? The political parties are the conduit through which the people express their views. So if they're not doing that, I need to understand what they are doing. So yes, I do understand what political parties stand for. These political parties, opposition parties that we have, they haven't shown enough of what they are made of. So they're giving George Weah a free realm to do whatever. George Weah is very corrupt. George Weah is sleeping at the wheels. George Weah's administration has failed a test that we're all talking about tonight. So who is the press and publicity person for the top opposition candidates? So they need to come out and do something. So to me, every single day that these people wake up, there should be something. Like we used to say fire when we were little, fire in the hole. There should be fire in the hole. There should be something. Okay, these guys are on Facebook. They have access to media institutions. They can come on FOL. And a lot of them, by the way, a lot of them run away from FOL. When they are booked, they always have something else to do. Oh, I just got something else to do, so I won't be able to make it. That's a failure of leadership. So if we're going to hold George Weah accountable, we also have to hold the political opposition accountable. And for me, it doesn't matter if you are number one on the list of opposition candidates or if you are number last for the 23 political parties or more that we have now. Everyone should be attacking these issues equally. And that's my point.
Thank you. We now take this time to go to our Tabata series or Tabata segment, which I believe Mr. Coffee is going to enjoy for the first time. But before that, we will play a short song, a short bassa song, so that you can enjoy for your. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Focus on Liberia, Tough Talking Thursday, and we're broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. At this time, we'll go around the room for your Tabata of the week, if not the month. Let me start with Mr. Sharif.
I'm going to go international this time, and that's with ECOWAS. They met, I'm not sure where now, somewhere in West Africa, but I think it was Ghana. They met in Ghana and impose sanctions, crippling sanctions, I guess, targeted sanctions on the military regime in Mali. The other part of that was they were going to maintain sanctions on the military regime in Guinea. And they are giving the Guinean military administration 6 months to organize election. And they're also calling for the release of Alpha Conde. My problem there is when Conde incarcerated all these people, ECOWAS remained silent. When all these people were killed, ECOWAS remained silent. When the opposition was brutalized, their offices were damaged, ECOWAS remained silent. So this is absolute Tabata. It's nonsense.
Mr. Kone.
My Tabata for the week, actually, is this report that the judges are trying to sue the president. So I'm thinking, who's going to be the judge if the judges if the judges are taking the president to court? Who is going to sit, in judgment? I think it's a complete Tabata. The whole issue of salaries, I think there are better ways for the three branches to address it than all these theatrics of judges suing the president when they would be the judges in that kind of situation. Even if they're not personally sitting, but it would be their colleagues that would be the judges in that kind of situation.
Again, Dr. Saki Gulafale is watching on his big screen, and we encourage all our fans, get a widescreen TV and watch Focus on Liberia. Mr. Ellis Coffey, Tabata of the week.
Well, I just got to get in tune with the Tabata of the week, but I think my Tabata of the week is, it will take me to what I was thinking about my closing statement here when I look at the scorecard, the MCC scorecard. And I'm looking at it and say, okay, you know what? Maybe looking at all these percentages, Liberia could try next year, since the rule of law is 50%, maybe we can try to pass in the rule of law. But then again, I look at all these different things that are happening in the country with insecurity and this and that. So the question is, the Tabata there is, how do we pass that? So I'm here sitting down looking at that and laughing at myself. So that's my Tabata of the week.
Call.
Oh gosh, there's so many of them. I'm going to pick on the U.S. ambassador, and I think that the arrogance and the condescension, lack of diplomacy in the way that he addressed the Republic of Liberia, I think is just offensive. While I'm extremely disappointed that we failed, I think that type of language is the responsibility of Liberian citizens. And I've noticed that foreign diplomats, especially of European descent, have been extremely venomous in their language that they use, as if they're scolding their children or they're scolding, their pets or their dogs. And then Liberian people cheering when they do this because they think it's insulting Wia or somebody they don't like. I think for me, that needs to be addressed. While I'm extremely disappointed in our failure to meet basic things that we should be doing on our own anyway, I think it is important for us to remember that the role of an ambassador is not to be a supervisor for your country. And conducting themselves that way and talking to us in that manner in a public global platform is extreme. That's the Tabata of the year for me.
Well, my Tabata is when is Minister Tuer going to own anything? When? They say you failed the millennium ago. You say, well, the other guys are supposed to give me the report card, but you didn't bring it on time. Complete Tabata. Well, we have 2 minutes to close in, and I'm going to get your closing comments for 30 seconds each. But before that comes, just let me let you know that we have a debate coming up on Sunday. But before that, we have the Literary Hour with Dr. K. Moses Nawe and Jackie Sire is tomorrow at 6 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. That's the Literary Hour. It comes on every Friday at 6. Then 8 p.m., we're going to have a debate between Robert Gagwa Jr., who questions the judgment and decision-making of Mr. Ellis or candidate Ellis Cummings. He questioned those and won a debate with Al Hussein Fadiga, who supports the decision-making, the judgment, and the plans of the standard bearer of the ANC, Mr. Alexander Cummings. So they say when you want to debate, when there is no swimming argument at the waterside. So the two of them will be here on Sunday night to debate the issues. Thank you again for coming here to discuss this very important topic. I know we have one more to discuss, but the Millennial MCC Scorecard is so important that we use it very, to the time to discuss it. So let's go around the room and get your closing comment. Let me start with Mr. Ellis Coffey. 30 seconds, please.
My parting comment would be to the president, George Manuel Weah, that whether it is MCC Scorecard, whether it is, IMF program, whatever that benefits the country, and I'm speaking as a patriotic Liberian, void of the politics, I'm speaking to the president, and it can be any president. But specifically on this MCC Scorecard, considering the fact that we failed 4 years in a row, and we're passing 9 thereabout, and we're failing some things consistently. We need to put a group together to hit this thing ground running, and Mr. President should take leadership on this, so that come next year we can pass, and come the other year we can pass. If the ministers are busy, if everybody is busy, bring in some people, whether they're in the country, whether they're abroad, bring them in this day of remote working and other things, bring them on board, let it help with this particular project so that we pass consistently. That mentality should be applied to other things as well. There's a time for you to bring, if you don't make them minister, you don't make them this, it's time for you to bring some people in on a consultative basis, on a short-term basis, to take care of some things for the country, like this particular thing.
Thank you. And someone is taking me to task here. Darling, what would say, FOL, is this supposed to be a breaking news? Don't sing in English and French around here. How is a white man singing in Basel different from a Basel man singing in English? Did I say it was breaking news, people? I play all the songs here, right? Call your closing comment.
Yeah, I'm just going to tie it to the Tabata because I see people say, oh, no, you're wrong. The people are supposed to scold us. They are our gods. Let me tell you something. They don't do this in other countries. I don't care what you say. You don't have incidents where the U.S. ambassador is conducting himself in such a condescending manner. That's not how diplomacy works. We are a sovereign nation. Whether or not they're providing us with resources, they have to be tactful in how they address us. That respect comes from us respecting ourselves. We're drawing this upon ourselves. And the fact that the citizens of Liberia find this acceptable is appalling. We are not the only recipients of foreign aid. The dignity that people the way you conduct yourself and the way you carry yourself is what affords you dignity, not because you're receiving foreign aid. This is reciprocal. We don't have a lot of time to get into it, but I do want people to know that you do not deserve to have a foreign country's ambassador talk to you in that manner or address your country in that manner simply because you failed. There needs to be tact. There needs to be, they need to approach us in a diplomatic manner, period. So that's, and I just hope that we can all grow the self-esteem to understand that.
Thank you. Mr. Kunin.
Yeah, I'm just going to follow up on what Cole said, because I think it's now becoming a pattern in our country where these foreign diplomats, they are like, they are the country's supervisor. They speak in any kind of language.
Exactly.
Languages that they will not use in other countries. And then the sad thing is we cheer them on because maybe the language is directed at somebody or at an institution that we don't like. But that's not the role of a diplomat. What even make it more contradictory is that the very issues these diplomats speak on, when Liberians speak on it, nobody pay attention. It's like everybody cheering what the white man says.
Exactly.
But when our own people says, the white man got to tell you, say, he tired with corruption, and we ourselves tired with corruption in our country. Somebody got to tell us it, and then we begin to clap that say, oh, the American ambassador, I'm tired with corruption. So this kind of mentality we need to change. And quickly before back to what Ellie said, I think too
15 seconds.
Okay. I think look, anything that benefits Liberia, I'm for all hands on deck, whether it is in the area of MCC card, whether it is in the investigation of the murders. There are a lot of experts around. They can lend their hand so that we can get a handle on some of these controversial things that are happening in our country.
We continue to receive more screenshots of our fans watching FOL on the big screen in their living room. So if you have a shot like this, please don't hesitate to send it to us. This one came from Tavina Cole, who is watching us on the big screen right there in Texas. Mr. Sharif.
Yeah, Dennis, so, there's no reason why Liberia should subject itself, surrender its sovereignty to an imperialist power. For why are you at the table looking for breadcrumbs when you can build your own economy by yourself? So what the Liberian government has been used to doing, and they've not developed their own means of being independent, is the reason why foreign envoys have to speak to us in this manner. So I don't have a problem with the American ambassador telling George Weah exactly what he needs to do. Because there's one thing, if I went to Liberia and said exactly what the Liberian ambassador said, I will be arrested. And so it is a good thing. It is a good thing that the United States ambassador is telling them exactly what they need to do, because here are these guys who are now millionaires. They are fleecing Liberia. George Weah and his handful of cronies are fleecing Liberia. This is what we need to talk about. We don't need to be chastising the United States ambassador. George Weah and his cronies are stealing the Liberian people's money, and this is the real issue. Okay, so Liberia is going down the drain because of this administration, and the truth has to be said. So we're all patriots here, we're all Pan-Africans here, but it has to be said that the real issue is, the root of the issue is the theft, the corruption, the malfeasance of this administration is anything that we've ever seen. This is nothing. This hasn't been seen before. People are dying. People are either dying in hospitals or dying in their homes. So this cannot be allowed to happen. So if it takes a foreign envoy to tell us exactly what we need to do, so be it. If the opposition will not say it, who else is going to say it?
Right. So the one who controls your stomach controls you.
Absolutely right.
Whip you around anytime. On that note, I want to say thank you so much for watching. Whether you believe that the American ambassador to chastise us for being irresponsible or not, we are all Liberians. Whether you believe that the duck stole the homework, that's why we didn't do the homework, or we failed the Millennium Goal because somebody did not give us the scorecard. We are all Liberians. We must do whatever it takes so that we pass the scorecard next time. Good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians.